Hi everyone, and welcome to our series in different tips to help you in your entrepreneurial and leadership activities. Today we have for you employee discipline and grievance processes. This is actually in my book. I'm the editor, Sari Edelstein, of Managing Food and Nutrition Services. Came out in 2008 by Jones and Bartlett Learning. This is chapter 5 by an author, Pat Spath. Let us go over some of the common employee problems that we might have in our own business or in a business where you work for others. As you see by looking at the screen, there's many different ways that employees, time after time again, keep coming up with missed deadlines or they're late, different things like that. And it comes to your attention that it's having a morale effect or a productivity effect on everyone, and it may be time for you to start to intervene. But first you have to ask yourself some internal questions. Does this employee really know what's expected of them? Do they know the expectations they're under? Have you gone over their job description with them? What are the expectations? And of course you don't want it secondhand. You want to see these problems yourself, usually time and time again, to confirm that this is something you need to act on. Again, you want to perhaps interview this employee and you want to find out if they really understand what they're supposed to do. Do they have the tools necessary to work? Is there something missing that's disabling them from being able to perform in the way you're expected? And if they had all the resources you could possibly give them, could they really do the job effectively? So we really find that there are 4 performance problems for employees, and that is that they really don't know what they're expected to do or their clear position. They haven't received any feedback. They thought everything was fine. And you really need to be able to have this ongoing. You can't just all of a sudden come up with something after a period of time that an employee has been doing wrong. This should be an ongoing situation. Also, employees need to be trained. Um, I've seen many times employees being hired, and they really need that few hours or days or even weeks to be educated on the ins and outs of what they're expected to do. And of course, we always would like them to have a good motivation and attitude toward the position. That can come from you, and that is a part of leadership. So the employee usually falls into 2 categories, either a behavioral issue or their performance is not up to par. Remember that you are in a position to coach and counsel an employee. Your goal is to help the employee be better, have a better attitude, have better resources so their performance can improve, and you want to talk to them and make sure they have what they need to do the job and understand what has gone wrong. Mostly you don't want to target anyone for personality traits. You want to go on exactly what is at task at hand and not get personal about their traits. By doing this, you zero in on what is the performance problem. Discuss one issue at a time. Perhaps they leave things on the dock and don't put them away when they need to and things are spoiling. But you also want to give some positive feedback. You want to say that what are the good things they do? What are their strengths? Why they've been, a great asset to have around. Trying to keep things positive and listening back and forth so that we can resolve this problem. So the first thing you do is really talk to the employee. This is called the verbal explanation. And we try to reiterate the department's performance standards so that the employee will know what's expected of them. And just verbally, we will tell them the consequences, usually a further writing up now instead of verbal, about their behavior. I want to pause here and give a remark that most places, and if this is your place of business, should have policies, pre-existing policies that deal with this type of issue where employees need to be disciplined. What is exactly the steps? Because every employee should have the exact same procedure in this. If you don't know the procedure and you're working for someone else, you should be checking with human resources to find out, is this exactly what you should do? And perhaps you should have a human resources officer with you when you do them. If the employee fails to respond, you want to give a written explanation of the behavior. I would also say that when you gave the verbal warning to the employee, you would want to write down this on a piece of paper of what date you gave it. Because as I said before, we want to have all the procedures in line. You do have to give a verbal warning in most establishments before you give a written. So in the written explanation of the behavior, you want to also put down what will be the consequences of the employee's actions, and that the final consequence will be suspension or termination. If all fails, you will have the employee suspended or terminated at the end, but you will have written documentation all along that the employee was counseled, was coached, it was positive, and that they just have their personal issues, their behavioral issues, and or performance issues resolved. Here is the verbal reminder list of things that you would want to keep in your records. Of course, the name, the verbal reminder, the rule or violation. Be very specific because you don't want them to claim later on that it was on something else or they don't remember. Again, you would like the employee to sign or initial the written reminder. Many times you would have to have another officer sign this with you so that there was a third person available for documentation and reliability. All your job descriptions should say the tasks that the employee should be able to do, insofar as that you're fair and that if there are complaints against someone's attitude, that you keep the complaints written perhaps in a drawer so that you have evidence later. Documentation is your key to successful termination or suspension. No one likes to do this. We all would love for our employees to work as a team, work together, and really enjoy coming to work and turn out with a fine product. But this is part of business that happens. Not all employees are a good fit, and so you want to have a procedure of the way this should go. Remember that you usually have a probationary period when an employee starts, and you can take that time to assess if the employee is correct for the job, and you won't have to go through lengthy write-ups to terminate them from the position if they really don't have a good fit. Again, perhaps you should talk to human resources to make sure that you are consistent with any of the rules that are protected by employees, such as race, gender, age, religion, or disability. In many cases, you may have to bring in some other equipment or help the employee do a better job, which you should be aware of. Always be consistent with how you're terminating employees. Make sure that one person is not being terminated for something that other people are doing. We do not want a wrongful termination suit. We want to avoid that at all costs. When an employee is terminated, it should be a mutual understanding that this was not a good fit.